Before we begin this epic journey into antiquity, take a moment to like the video, share it with fellow history enthusiasts, and subscribe to the channel. Your support is what allows us to create in-depth historical content like this. In the 1st century before our time, the lands we now know as France, Belgium, and parts of Germany and Switzerland were a vibrant, complex mosaic of peoples. This was Gaul, a region defined by fierce tribal loyalties, rich cultural traditions, and alliances that shifted like the sands of time. To the south, the Roman Republic, a sprawling and insatiable power, was always looking to expand its borders, secure its frontiers, and add to its political prestige. From this world of ambition and conflict, one man would emerge, a commander whose name would echo through the ages, Gaius Julius Caesar. He was a brilliant strategist, a charismatic leader, and an endlessly ambitious politician, determined to carve his name not just into the annals of Rome, but into history itself. This is the story of the Gallic Wars, the brutal, decade-long conflict that forged a legend, conquered a nation, and irrevocably shaped the future of Western Europe. To understand Caesar's conquest, we must first understand Gaul. It was far from a unified nation. Instead, it was a patchwork of over 60 independent tribes, each with its own leaders, customs, and gods. Groups like the Aedui, the Arverni, the Helvetii, and the Belgi were powerful forces, but their relationships were often marked by deep-seated rivalries and constant power struggles. Gallic society was structured around a warrior aristocracy and a powerful priestly class. The Druids, who served as judges, teachers, and keepers of sacred knowledge. While Romans might have viewed them as barbarians, the Gauls were skilled craftsmen, formidable warriors, and had sophisticated social structures. For Rome, Gaul was strategically vital. It was a buffer zone against northern tribes and a land rich in resources. More importantly, its internal divisions presented an opportunity. A skilled manipulator could exploit these rivalries, turning tribe against tribe, and that is precisely what Caesar set out to do. The disunity of Gaul would become the key to its downfall. And who was the man who would exploit this weakness? Julius Caesar was born into a prestigious, but not particularly wealthy patrician family. From an early age, he displayed incredible ambition and a sharp political mind. He navigated the treacherous waters of Roman politics with skill, forming the powerful First Triumvirate with Pompey the Great and Marcus Crassus. This alliance propelled him to the position of consul and, crucially, secured him the governorship of Cisalpine Gaul, Transalpine Gaul, and Illyricum. This wasn't just a provincial command. It was a golden opportunity. Successful military campaign would bring him immense wealth from plunder, a loyal veteran army, and the one thing he craved most: gloria, or military glory. For Caesar, Gaul was the perfect stage. He saw not just a territory to be conquered, but a chance to build a legacy that would eclipse all his rivals and ensure his immortality. The campaigns began in 58 BCE, sparked by the migration of the Helvetii tribe. Citing this as a threat to Roman territory, Caesar mobilized his legions. His initial advances were swift and brutal. He wasn't just a brilliant battlefield tactician. He was a master of logistics, engineering, and psychological warfare. Roman legions built bridges, fortifications, and siege engines with astonishing speed, often demoralizing their opponents before the first sword was even drawn. Caesar skillfully played the game of diplomacy, forming temporary alliances with certain Gallic tribes, like the Aedui, positioning himself as their protector against other, more aggressive groups. He would promise aid and friendship one day, only to turn his legions against those same allies the next. He adapted his strategies to the unfamiliar terrain, learning to fight in dense forests and across wide rivers. With each victory, Caesar's reputation grew, both in Rome and in Gaul. He was seen as an unstoppable force, a brilliant leader of men. But as his power expanded, the disparate Gallic tribes began to realize a terrifying truth. The real threat wasn't their neighbors, but the Roman eagle hovering over them all. Resistance began to smolder. That resistance found its champion in a young, charismatic chieftain from the Arverni tribe, Vercingetorix. He was a visionary leader who saw what his predecessors had not, that the only way to defeat Rome was for Gaul to fight as one. Traveling from tribe to tribe, he used his powerful oratory and commanding presence to forge a grand coalition. Convincing old enemies to set aside their differences and unite against the common invader. Vercingetorix understood that he couldn't defeat Caesar's legions in a pitched battle. Instead, he implemented a scorched earth policy, burning Gallic towns and farms to deny the Roman army supplies. This was a brutal but effective strategy designed to starve the legions and break their will. For the first time, the Gauls had a unified command and a coherent strategy. For the first time, Gaul spoke with one voice, and that voice had a name: Vercingetorix. He was no longer just a tribal chieftain. He was the symbol of a nation's desperate fight for freedom. The conflict now entered its most critical phase. The war became a high-stakes chess match between two brilliant commanders. Vercingetorix led a series of strategic withdrawals, drawing Caesar deeper and deeper into hostile territory, stretching his supply lines to the breaking point. After a setback at the siege of Gergovia, one of Caesar's very few tactical defeats, the Gallic momentum was at its peak. Vercingetorix chose to make his final stand at the fortified hill town, or Apotum of Alesia. It was a formidable defensive position, and he gathered his main army of around 80,000 warriors inside its walls. While sending out riders to summon a massive relief army from all corners of Gaul, Alesia was to be the final, decisive confrontation. The fate of Gaul and the future of Julius Caesar would be decided here, in a single epic battle where strategy, resilience, and sheer human will would be pushed to their absolute limits. What unfolded at Alesia is one of the most astonishing feats of military engineering in history. Trapped between Vercingetorix's army inside the town and the massive Gallic relief army on its way, Caesar was in an impossible position. So he did the impossible. He ordered his men to build two massive lines of fortifications. The first, an 11-mile-long wall called a circumvallation, faced inward to besiege Alesia. It was complete with towers, trenches, and deadly traps. But then, he built a second, even larger line of walls, the contravallation facing outward, stretching for 13 miles. This was to defend his army from the approaching Gallic relief force. The Romans were now besieging, and being besieged at the same time. The battle became a brutal, desperate struggle on two fronts. Inside Alesia, starvation set in. Outside, the Gallic relief army, hundreds of thousands strong, threw themselves against the Roman defenses in wave after wave of furious attacks. For days, the battle raged, with Caesar riding along the lines, urging his exhausted men to hold. In the end, Roman discipline and engineering triumphed. The relief army was broken, and seeing no hope, a starved and defeated Vercingetorix rode out of Alesia and surrendered himself to Caesar in a dramatic final act. The fall of Alesia marked the end of organized resistance in Gaul. The political consequences were immense. Caesar returned to Rome not just as a triumphant general, but as the wealthiest and most powerful man in the Republic. His loyal legions and his immense prestige would eventually allow him to cross the Rubicon, defeat his rival Pompey in a civil war, and become the undisputed master of Rome. The Gallic Wars were the launch pad for his ultimate rise to power. For Gaul, the result was a complete cultural and political transformation. It was absorbed into the Roman world, a process known as Romanization. Latin replaced Gallic languages, Roman laws replaced tribal customs, and new cities were built on the foundations of old Oppida. While brutal, this conquest laid the groundwork for the development of modern France and had a lasting impact on the history of all of Western Europe. The Gallic Wars were not just a military campaign. They were a pivotal event that laid the foundations for a new era in Rome and in the world. Through unwavering ambition, brilliant strategy, and ruthless decisions that still provoke debate today, the Gallic Wars stand as one of the most remarkable chapters of ancient history. It was a conflict that showcased the heights of human ingenuity and the depths of human brutality. It turned an ambitious politician into an immortal legend and reshaped the map of Europe forever. The story of Caesar, Vercingetorix, and the fate of Gaul is a timeless epic of power, resistance, and the forging of an empire. If you enjoyed this deep dive into history, please like the video, share it with others who love the past, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our next epic documentaries. Thank you for watching.